Welcome back to the Viking Till I Die podcast. This is Andy Martin, and I'm happy to be joined by Rajan, now Raj Merchant.
Yeah.
Hello,
No,
Raj.
you got it. You nailed it. Hey, Andy. Good to be on. Can I say good to be on the pod? No, I appreciate
why
you
not?
doing this and having me. So yeah, very cool.
When we connected the other day in preparation for this, you said something to the effect of your feelings about growing up in Greensboro and going to Northwest were somewhat mixed. And I think I know
Yeah.
what you mean by that.
Yeah.
I've had the fortunate ability to create a self-imposed delusion where I remember only what I want and nothing that I don't.
Yeah.
And that has served me pretty well. But not everyone gets to do it that way. So when you say you have some of those mixed reviews, can you get into what that means for you?
Yeah, happy to. I will, if nothing else, I'm fully transparent, like just honest. And I'll even say, like, I think I had mixed feelings a little bit about sort of when I saw that you come out with this podcast. I was like, I don't want to relive those years. Like, do I want to relive those years? Right. I mean, it wasn't traumatic, but for me, I moved to Greensboro. We moved in the summer of 1990. So going into sixth grade year, which, yes, that was probably the best time to do it in the sense of everyone sort of knew it in middle school, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just shy, introverted kid, only child, like didn't have a ton of friends. And so just that disruption of moving to a new state, a new city, going into middle school was hard for me. And I think, so that's why I said I had mixed feelings, just because it's hard. Right? I think what I've heard you say on most of the episodes is like high school is hard for everyone, right? For a lot of people. I think a lot of people only see the positive parts and everyone's struggling in their own ways. And so just sort of come to realization with that as I've gotten older around, I'm thankful for that journey. But for me, it was like just honestly wanting to fit in, dad being from India, like that sort of made me different, right? In a lot of ways. And even things like have people not know how to say my name or just the bullying, minor bullying around or just teasing around that. So all of those things for me just made it a little bit challenging, right? To kind of navigate those years.
One can only imagine. I never really gave it like any direct attention. A name like Rajan Merchant sounds like it's from someplace else. It didn't bother to think that. And I never knew until you told me the other day that you're half Indian, that your dad's Indian, your mom was, I guess, just some white lady from the South. Do I have that right?
Southern white lady, yeah.
Huh? And that's my somewhat, little experience. That's not a very common couple from what I've seen, that combination, right? I don't think it's a stretch to say, like, especially in that time, where let's call it, not to shout our ages out here, but 50 years ago, let's say, would it be fair to say that would have been a fairly uncommon match?
Yeah, actually, because they actually, it's funny. So their 50th wedding anniversary was this year. So 50 years ago, right? Definitely. Yeah. I mean, mom was from a small town, Spartanburg County, South Carolina. My dad had come over to the U.S. And so he was born in Bombay, which is now Mumbai, came to the U.S. in the early mid 60s to go to college, went to UMass. And then he was working in kind of that area, Massachusetts, Connecticut. And then he got transferred. So he worked in textiles. He was a chemical engineer, but he worked in the carpet and textile industry. And so he got sent to Greenville in the early 70s for his job. And so it's interesting that was hard. I think certainly hard for him, right? I don't know that I could have done that. I think it's made me, not that I didn't appreciate him then, it's made me appreciate him a lot more now being a parent, because I think he probably didn't know how to navigate a lot of the stuff that, like, I mean, even things like me trying to play basketball and t-ball and some of that stuff, those weren't sports he knew. He probably didn't know as much how to support me or try to coach me in that. I think thinking that he probably just wanted me to I think he was torn. I was torn because I really wanted, and now as an adult, like, want my son to know that side of his heritage. And I feel like I don't know it as much as I'd like to. So I feel like there's just sort of a tension between any sort of immigrant coming over and wanting to both preserve and have their kid know that heritage, but also you want your kid to assimilate and sort of fit in, right? And so how do you navigate that? And so that's just something that I know I didn't appreciate then, that I think about it a lot now, because I'm like, that must have been really hard for him. And I was probably just
Mm.
me and how things were sort of hard for me fit in and assimilate, but had to be really hard for him to even
Did
kind
your
of know
dad
what to do.
uh, okay. Did your dad find it important for you to be connected with that Indian cultural side of your family? Did he value that and try to impart that on you in any way?
Yeah, he did. I think he did. He for sure did. And I know there were things like we weren't a. There were, I think, times where even in middle school, high school, like I wanted to explore church and faith, and I think that was tough for him because I think if you think about it as sort of a black and white world, like I think there were a couple times growing up where I wanted to like get a cross and wear it around my neck. And I think he originally thought that that was me sort of picking that side, my sort of Christian American side of the family over the Hinduism. And so I think that was, but I will say, like, we would travel. I mean, my mom, as a lot of people might know, my mom's a teacher, so she taught at Northwest Middle School. She taught sixth grade for the whole time that we lived there. And so growing up, we would go to India. I mean, probably every 3 or 4 years. Like that was important to my dad, both for him to see his family because he was the youngest of four, and his brother and two sisters never left India. So it was important for him to go back and see his mom and his family there, and also to take me so that I would be able to be exposed to that. And so I did really, again, that was really hard in the sense of I mean, just all the things about the food being different and the people. Like for me as a kid,
Mhm.
that was hard. And I didn't appreciate it at the time. As an adult, I'm like, yes, I'm so grateful that he did expose me to that love of travel and just sort of that appreciation of the Indian side of my heritage, because that's just so valuable for me to have that
Sure.
appreciation.
So, but if we're being honest, right? And I'm slightly
Yeah.
projecting here.
Yeah.
Okay. So on one hand, you can appreciate that you love your dad, and you're
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah.
but at adolescent age, was there any
Yeah.
part of you who was trying to conceal all that for the sake of just getting along at school and not being singled out for being any kind of other?
For sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I tell this story, not that it bothers me a ton, but like I remember, I think it was seventh grade. I don't remember who. And if I did remember, I probably wouldn't call them out here. But like someone was like, how do you feel that your dad's going to go to hell because he's not a Christian? Like, what do you say to that? And so I think, I don't know if it's a benefit or not. I mean, the reality is that you said you didn't realize that that was sort of my origin story. I think a lot of people didn't because I'm lighter skinned. That could be a blessing. It could not be. I don't know. But I think that made it a little bit easier to fit in that sense because I don't look Indian. A lot of people think, even with my name, they're like, oh, so merchant. So like, is your mom Indian? And I'm like, no, merchant is an Indian name. But sure. I mean, for me, I think especially coming into Greensboro where we lived, and that was a very, very, not a very diverse area. Yeah. I mean, I think I definitely already kind of felt out of place. And so it was sort of, how can I minimize that feeling of being out of place and just trying to
Mm.
fit in? And honestly, a lot of times just kind of maybe go under the radar, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
already shy, introverted, quiet. Like, I don't want to
yeah.
really call attention to myself.
So was there ever a moment, again, just being completely honest, was there ever a moment where you
Yeah.
felt like you got on the other side of that 100%? Where you felt like you can just exist in your own skin, like, "That's not a thing anymore, I'm a grown man," or is there still a part of you that's still hanging on to that?
No, now, I mean, certainly now, I would say that's a great question, Andy. I would say, I mean, and I don't know when that happened, but now, yeah, I'm good with it. I mean, I think I'm a big believer in like everyone has a story, right? And so it's sort of like every experience we've had kind of shapes who we are. And so can't go back and change any of that. And if I could, would I? I mean, that's, I think, a dangerous sort of mental place to go.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, at this point, I I think honestly, a lot of my thoughts, like we talked about a few days ago, is for me, it's just sort of how I show up as a dad, right? I've got a 5-year-old. And so how can I make sure that I think we all probably try to project a little bit, right? Or try to maybe not repeat either mistakes we saw or sort of mistakes we lived through growing up. And so for me, no, I'm very, I think, kind of happy with who I am and how things have turned out. But I don't think it took me a long time to be able to, I think, process those feelings and even like find words to really articulate kind of how it felt, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Like, because those are really complex, I think, feelings. So that was something I've sort of had to navigate or wanted to navigate to kind of be able to make it all make sense.
I can only imagine that's the case. And those times, like you had mentioned, are difficult for everybody, but you had added layers of stuff that many of us didn't have to consider or negotiate. So thank you for sharing that. One thing I would tell you, if asked, I would have said, if somebody were to ask me, okay, describe, it's going to be difficult to adjust this Raj business. I know you've been Raj for a long time, but
go for it. Yeah,
so,
yeah.
All right,
That's
so
right. My mom still calls me
merchant.
Raj, and my dad does as well. So yeah.
Okay, good. So my memory would have said, yeah, slightly the quiet side, on the observant side, always kind of watching, paying attention, observant, astute, very smart, but not necessarily outspoken. That's kind of how I always thought of it. Is that more or less a fair assessment for my 35-year-old memory?
No, that's spot on, right? And it's funny because I'm very self-deprecating. So like when I saw sort of what you recorded with Matt Price and he said I was one of the smartest people that he knew, I'm like, there's no way. That is not true at all. Like,
he's met like 7 people though, to be fair.
Yeah. But what's interesting is the thing I've sort of learned as an adult is like, and I know a lot of people I think struggle with imposter syndrome, but I do as well, right? I mean, I think part of it is being, so my persona, my identity growing up was certainly academics, right? Because I felt like I was smart, did well in school, was not athletic, was not social. So like where I could be successful was in sort of more academic related pursuits. But then I got to a point where coming out of high school, so I got into 2 schools. I got into Chapel Hill undergrad and Penn. And I remember thinking that I did not want to, I had this false narrative in my head. I'm like, if I'd have been Chapel Hill, it's gonna be like high school all over again, right? Because so many people that I knew were going to be there, and that might be a benefit to some people. In my brain, it was, I don't want that. I need some space from North Carolina. And so I left and went to Penn, and then I get there and like, I mean, everyone's smarter than me, right? I mean, it's like everyone was top of their class, and it was just so intimidating. And so it's just been really interesting to kind of think about that experience too, and kind of how that shaped me, just kind of that journey.
Well,
but to answer your question, like, yes, you were spot on. I also like to say I'm quiet, but when I say something, it has meaning, hopefully, right? Hopefully it's important, because I try to choose my words carefully and speak up when I have something to say important. So.
Well, then explain this to me, because I have a story for you that defies everything you just told me. Okay. And I mean this in all the best ways. This is something that shocked the hell out of me, and I assume many of our peer group. So let me bring you back, Raj. And I know you remember this. Do you remember our senior year, we had something called the Bachelor Auction? Now, for those of you who do not remember that, or those of you who are just tuning in, the Bachelor Auction, I've come to learn that this was something that was not unique to us, but at the time I thought that we were the only school who ever thought of such a clever thing. And what it was, this was an event in the auditorium that was hosted by Becky Castle, and I think Jillian Henretta, if I'm not mistaken, but for sure Sounds Becky right. Castle. And Becky Castle was my next door neighbor my whole life. And the premise was, we have all these guys that would be off stage, and we were all dressed up, and they would be announced one by one. And Becky had like a few speaking notes. And so the guys would come out on stage and give a little twirl, a little sachet, let's say. And then people in the audience would bid and have an auction to win the privilege of a date with one of us handsome, eligible bachelors. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I don't know where the money went, but it doesn't really matter. So the thing that always stuck with me is that for all your introverted natures, your words, you were the first one to come out on stage that night. Do you remember this?
I don't. I do not. I remember doing that. I hadn't thought about that in probably 30 years.
Okay.
But I did not remember I was first.
It's striking to me that the guy who's self-reporting as kind of being the one who's not necessarily putting himself out there socially was the very first guy And the stones, Raj, the stones you had to put yourself
Yeah.
in that position has stayed with me
Yeah.
all these years, because that could not have been easy for anybody to be the first guy on the first time the school has ever attempted such an exercise. And it was you. Well, I'll go first. And I thought, here's the thing. Before the night, I went up to Becky Castle, the MC. And I said, Becky, listen, I'm not sure how this is going to go. I'm nervous that no one's going to spend $1 on me. So can you please put me in the middle? I don't want to be first and I don't want to be last. So I did that because I was so nervous that no one was going to raise their hand to spend a few bucks on me, that I was buying some insurance. But I was happy to watch you go first. And I got to tell you, I got a lot of respect for you that night, Raj. You did. You went first. And do you remember who got you that night?
I don't.
You don't remember that? How can you not remember that?
I don't remember. I don't remember that.
Look,
Man, you get old and memory goes, and yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, the reason I remember it because I was a nervous wreck, so worried that I was just going to be like at $0. And there was a bidding war against you. And I'm telling you, you can say what you want, but I remember feeling green with envy that Mrs. the teacher.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
if you're telling me you're not going on a date with Mrs. Little, then I got a bone to pick with you, because that was a golden opportunity from what I can remember.
Man.
Well,
gosh,
it's a bummer that all this is lost on you, because I've carried this memory very close to the vest for all these years, and I've always thought if I had a chance to revisit this moment, I would take it, and here we are.
Here we are. I didn't say I was consistent, Andy, right? I didn't say I was consistent in what I did, but I don't know. So I can't tell you, but that's kind of what I try to do now, is just sort of, do things that, and I guess maybe that was, I try to seek out things where I know that I will not be super comfortable doing it, right? And so I guess that's sort of an early example of doing that.
No, that's great. Now let's transition here. So I didn't know you well those years. I knew you from a bit of a distance. But recently, when I was preparing for this, I was doing some outreach, and I was asking people what they thought about you, remember about you, and Matt Price's words, among others. They'd have me believe that you are one of the smartest people to ever walk the face of North Carolina's fine streets. Are you as smart as? And don't be all humble on me. Don't be all self-deprecating. I know that's your tendency, but are you as smart as the rest of us think you are?
I can't be self-deprecating. I mean, that's hard, Andy. I mean, so I guess, yeah. I mean, I would like to think but how am I going to answer this and not sound cocky?
No one's going to accuse you.
I think it depends on. Yeah. I mean, I think it depends on how you define smart, but so I guess, yes. I mean, I at least kind of, that was my thing. I mean, that's just what from an early age, I think I read early, and I was probably, I love to read and I would always have my nose in a book, apparently, according to my parents. And so but I also think I liked, I mean, if you think about it, what I did, the things that I sort of gravitated to in middle school, high school were History Bowl, Quiz Bowl, debate team, those, because those were things I felt like I could excel in, right? Where I guess if you say smart, sure, being able to retain information and memorize, great at memorizing things. That's why I said, how do you define smart? Because I think we can have a conversation around what that really means. But sure, I mean, I think I'd have to go back and check the yearbook. I think I was voted most intellectual, maybe senior year, for whatever that's worth. So
okay.
Yeah.
How do you describe the nature of the work that you're involved in these days? I know you said you're switching jobs, you're going to a big consulting firm, EY, or not necessarily no, but that's not for the faint of heart or constitution. So how do you describe your interest professionally?
Yeah, so great question. So really my whole career, 25 years now, I've been doing technology consulting. So went undergrad, studied business information systems, and then right out of school got a job. I did not want to work for a big company. I wanted to be able to in a smaller environment. And so right out of undergrad, joined a small boutique kind of startup consulting firm based up in Boston. And so I guess what I tell people I do is I really help large organizations just leverage data and AI. Everything now is AI, but leverage data and AI to work smarter, to be more efficient. That's a lot of what I've done. I mean, if you go back 25 years, a lot of my early career work was working with large insurance companies that were trying to digitize a lot of the paper coming in. It's not super interesting, but all of that data is now kind of the fuel for AI. So I work with clients, I manage teams, but it's all around data and AI and on the technology side. So it's kind of what I've been doing.
Is there anything left for you in Greensboro? Do you ever go there? Do you ever think about it? Is
No,
it something cross
so
your mind? Do you have any people there? Do you have high school buddies you keep in touch
I
with? Any of
don't know.
that?
I don't. And I really don't. So I think one thing that was hard, right, is and I don't know if people will remember, but so I will try to make a long story short that my dad, I think probably, so when we were in 10th grade, my dad actually got got transferred to Dublin, Georgia. And so he went ahead and moved down there like mid school year. And then my mom and I were going to follow at the end of 10th grade. And so we did that. And so I actually left Northwest and enrolled in school down in Dublin, Georgia for like 2 weeks. And then like just, I hated it. My parents hated being there. Like it wasn't the right fit for us. And my dad didn't like the job. And so then he quit that job and got another job in Florence, South Carolina. And so my parents, God bless them, right? I don't know that I could do this, but they made the decision that my mom and I would go back to Greensboro, get an apartment. She was able to get her job back. She called her old principal at Northwest Middle. Was able to get her job back teaching. And then I re-enrolled me in Northwest. And I spent the last 2 years, so 11th and 12th grade, going to Northwest, and my dad was in Florence, which was probably a 2-hour drive from Greensboro. And so like every weekend, pretty much we would just go down and be a family down there. So I say that to say, I think it's hard. It certainly was hard for me that after graduation and I'm coming home for Thanksgiving, Christmas. Well, home's not Greensboro anymore. At least that's not where my parents are. And so I think it may have been 10 years. Like I may not have gone back to Greensboro. I guess I went back once. So Drew Devine, who was probably my best friend in high school, when he got married, I went down, was in his wedding, but like probably '07 when we had our 10-year reunion, that might've been like the second or third time I had been back to Greensboro, since we graduated. So it'll always I struggle with like when people say, where are you from? I always say I'm from the Carolinas because like I grew up in both, right? I mean, I'm like, how much time do you have? Like born in Greenville, but went to high school in Greensboro. I really feel tied to both states, but I just don't, it's hard. Right? I guess I went back a couple of years ago when Mr. Newell died and went to his funeral. But I don't get back. I mean, I probably don't spend a lot of time up there anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, everybody comes at it differently. One of the
Yeah.
things that my wife recently pointed out to me was she said, you treat Greensboro like it's its own identity. Like you treat Greensboro like it's like a friend of yours all by itself. And I think like
Okay.
even if everybody you knew were to move or die, you'd still go to Greensboro and drive around like you're visiting an old friend. And I thought that was a weird thing to hear, but I think it was completely correct. But I thought, yeah, I just love being in town, and that's not for everybody. I'm not saying it should be that way, but I'll
Yeah.
always consider Greensboro a friend, no matter who's
Yeah.
there or not there. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. It does. And again, I think it does. Maybe for me, not a close friend. I mean, but like it definitely, like, look, I spent, I guess, 7 years there. And I love being back in North Carolina. Didn't think I would ever move back to North Carolina. So I love being in North Carolina, being in Charlotte. And, so yeah, but also it doesn't feel as familiar anymore, frankly. And I mean, I wish it did, right? But like when I went back there, being downtown, I'm like, it just doesn't feel as familiar as it did. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I get that.
yeah, just like for me, I feel bad because I mean, it's so, and maybe this is like middle age, midlife, sort of looking back and how time's fleeting, but yeah, like I wish I'd hung on to relationships more, to be honest, right? Like I feel like there's so many opportunities when you're young to just say yes and dive in. And I didn't, but whatever.
If you had to think hard about anybody who maybe you knew a little bit, but you know what, I wished I leaned into that relationship a little bit more. Anybody who comes
Yeah.
to mind, you know what, that could have been a better friendship. I wish I would have tried a little bit more. Do you have anything in the recesses of your mind that, you know what, I hope this guy is doing okay, or that gal, whatever.
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I would say, oh yeah, it's a good question, Andy.
You know what? Before you answer that, I got to tell you,
Yeah.
it's always
Yeah.
very flattering. It's always very flattering to me when smart people say, "That's a good question, Andy." I can't tell you how
Yeah.
good it makes me feel. It makes me feel like
Yeah.
I got good questions too. And Raj, you just told me I got good
Yeah.
questions, and that's very nice to hear. So thank you. So please continue.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. And that was genuine. But it's one thing that it's one of those little tells they tell you to do if you need time, if you're trying to buy time to answer a
So it was a good
question.
question. You're just
No,
using
it
a
was a good
tactic on
question.
me.
It was a good question.
No,
Yeah.
that wasn't a good question. You're using a tactic on me to buy time. You can just say
They can
that.
both
Just
be
be
true.
honest.
They can both be true. They can both be true.
Shit.
And maybe this is kind of revisionist history or
It's
sort of Monday
fine.
morning
I'm okay with
quarterback.
it. I'm okay with the revisionist.
No, yeah, no, I just like there are a lot of like I didn't go to prom. Like I didn't, it just was not something that felt comfortable to me. And so like those are the things that I wish I had leaned into more. So maybe it's not specific people, but it's specific just activities and rituals and milestones that people go through that I just was like, nope, that doesn't feel comfortable to me. Or I don't want to have to try to ask someone to prom. Like what I mean, like I think just sort of honestly being I don't know, maybe scared, vulnerable to put myself out there in certain ways. And so I think that's where more of my, man, I wish I had just leaned into some of those things instead of just sort of withdrawing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I think now we're getting somewhere,
Okay.
honestly,
Yeah.
because I know exactly what you mean. And I wonder here, I'm gonna take a risk. And
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
tell me if I'm just going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But do you think it's possible, again, just exploring, that if you feel that way, that might be a reason, perhaps, that you allowed yourself to not remember so much about our high school because it was just easier to let it go because you weren't willing to maybe take some of that rejection, so
100%.
therefore easier to move on?
100%. I mean, yeah, I'm not obviously not a clinical psychologist, but I do think that could be part of it, right? I mean, I sort of say, oh, is it just sort of we all get older and have trouble remembering? But and again, I don't want to like. I also feel this weird. I don't want to like. I had a privileged childhood, right? I mean, be able to kind of like good upbringing, good family, went to a good public school. Like, I don't want it to make it sound like, oh man, I had a horrible childhood. That is not it at all. So that's not what I'm trying to convey. But yeah, it could be that like for that when we started the conversation on how for me, like high school was a sort of, I feel conflicted about it for those reasons, then I think you're right that it could be that because like didn't feel that I fit in or didn't want to get rejected or any of those things that could be why I just don't hang on to those memories. Like I believe
Yeah,
that is 100% the case.
it's not that you have to know. It's not for everybody to go
Yeah.
spelunking and looking for that kind of
Yeah.
information. I get that. I'm interested in those things. I find it very interesting for me to go and search myself that way.
Yeah. Are
But
we
I'm
going too
not.
deep on this? I don't want to take this into a deep, dark conversation though. Like, are we going
Well, it's
too,
up to us.
too
It's up
deep?
to us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's ultimately up to you, Raj. Right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it feels like it's getting
Yeah.
a bit
Yeah.
in an area that you don't want to go into,
No.
that's
No.
totally fine.
I'm
You
an
can
open
back off.
book. So yeah, I'm an open book.
No, it's cool. But I think to me, like I mentioned to you the other day, like our friend that's Jake at State Farm says, you don't have to get overly personal. But the reason I am doing this is because I enjoy just going around the edges of that
Yeah.
vulnerability and kind of exploring that
Yeah.
within reason, right? And
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
seeing what is under the surface. And I think other people like hearing that too. Now, in
Yeah.
my case,
Okay.
I'm grateful for that angst or whatever you want to call it, but I also went looking for it. And I feel like what you're saying is I just wasn't ready at that point to just confront that. I was maybe just going to kind of go about my own way.
For sure. And I will tell you this. So like, so classic or the best example I can think of that is, so I was not athletic at all. Like I enjoyed playing basketball. I enjoyed playing baseball, though I was horrible at that. I liked playing tennis. I tried out for the tennis team at some point one year, and I don't remember what year it was. Was Miss Hopper the one who was the coach? I'm trying to remember if that's the right name. And my memory is that there were 13 spots on the team and 14 kids tried out, and I was the one who did not make the team. Now, maybe that wasn't quite right, but I didn't make the team. And to your point, Andy, like, I think I've been going down an interesting path around kind of resilience. And so for me, like, I took that rejection and was like, okay, well, I didn't make the tennis team. So rather than going out and trying harder, I just like, well, I'll go do something I can be successful at. And it's not tennis, or it's not tennis at a high school tennis team, right? Does that make sense? Like that was just how when there were things, because like you said, do I think I'm smart? I did. And so those things came easier to me. And so when there was something that didn't come easy to me, I probably didn't go after it and seek out that rejection or challenge myself, right? And so because now in this stage of life, I bring everything back to kind of being a parent. Like, I think for me, it's making sure that I think I've seen so many people who talk about just the value of teamwork and athletics and all of that, and just sort of, resilience and overcoming rejection and quote unquote failure. And so just trying to figure out how to model that and not let my son quit when things get hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm not the model of that, given sort of my journey. But it's just interesting that, to think about what you said, right, where you sort of sought out rejection and got better from it. But that was something that was in your DNA, whether that was modeled or innate or whatever, is an interesting sort of thing to think about.
I'm slightly concerned that I was doing some kind of virtue signaling there. I didn't mean to, because there was certainly a lot of areas where if it didn't come easy, I would just quit.
Yeah.
And that was true a lot of my academics. I was like, well, math is not easy for me, therefore I'm not good at math, so I give myself a pass. And I wish I would have gone, no. That just means you have to try harder at math now. You don't get a pass because it doesn't come easy to use. Don't let me convince you or anybody else that I was in the pursuit of some kind of righteousness. It's not the case.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean it that way, but yeah.
No, I know you didn't, but I'm concerned that I was misleading my own narrative. The path of least resistance is true for all of us, and I certainly took my own easy way outs, and you learn later, and we all still do. We go, well, that's hard. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that, and then you have to make a decision. Okay, well, it's hard. I'm going to do it anyway, and that's what I think is really where your grit is.
Yeah,
whether that's sports or parenting, whatever that means to you. But yeah, I appreciate you opening up. And hopefully it didn't make you uncomfortable, but kind of pressing you there. But that was cool to hear you talk about that.
No, it didn't. Like I said, it's something I've sort of, as an adult, just sort of been able to put words behind. So, like I said, I'm always happy to talk about it. And
hey, here's one.
Yeah.
Here's one. You know how in Charlotte, no one is from here. Everyone is from the Northeast, I guess. And sometimes California.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I've noticed Southern accents when I hear them in a way that I didn't when I was a kid or even 20 years ago in Charlotte. I hear your Southern accent, and I like it.
Okay.
Do you?
I don't. It's funny. No, I don't. But it does sometimes come out, and I don't know if it's because, I don't. It's interesting, right? I sort of think of myself as not having an accent, but it does come out, and it's not all the time. But I think when I talk to my mom, it comes out, and maybe it's just there, and I don't know. Like, I just feel like I probably don't hear my voice the way other people do. I imagine that's just a common thing. So maybe it's just that I don't hear my own accent. But
when you were in Pennsylvania for school, did no one ever comment on it?
I think so. Maybe a little bit, but I just, and maybe that changes. I don't know, but yeah, not a lot of people would comment on it. So,
okay.
I don't know. It's interesting. By the way, it's funny that you said that about Charlotte, because a couple of years ago, I did a program called Leadership Charlotte here. And one of the women in my cohort was from, I think, East Charlotte. And I sort of did that same, oh, you're from Charlotte. I didn't, she was African-American. I'm like, oh, I didn't think anyone was actually from Charlotte. And she's like, no, there are plenty of people that are from Charlotte. You just don't actually meet any of them. And it made me very aware of, like, we all live in our bubbles and our circles. And so I try to be more intentional around sort of just thinking about that there are people from Charlotte. I don't interact with them much because I'm whatever, sort of maybe in different circles. But it was interesting hearing, I think, sort of hearing you kind of talk, I think, with Matt Price about the concept of home and where's home. And so I think now for me, Charlotte's home. I've been here 11 years, which I was thinking that's longer than I've lived anywhere in my 40 6 years now. Is in Charlotte, so hopefully won't be leaving anytime soon.
How are you 46 and I'm almost 48 and we're in the same grade?
Well, I'll be 47 in September. So I'm a September birthday, so.
I don't like how that feels. I don't like how you're so much younger than me. Very good. Raj, anything else you want to tell the Viking Till I Die community? The floor is yours, man. I'd love to hear you get it all out there. This is your moment.
No, this has been great. Look me up, right? I'm in Charlotte, so would love to connect. And I think is next year 30th reunion. I think so.
That's the plan. Yeah,
let's do that. It'd be fun.
Let's do it. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Andy, this was great. I don't know. This may be like the worst podcast that you've ever recorded. It's not interesting, but no, I had a blast doing it. So,
man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you decided to talk to me. I had more than a couple of people ask for you by name, Raj. Excuse me.
Either one. No, it's blast from the past.
I think if I'm going to speculate, you had a bit of a mystique, a bit of a mystery behind you because you weren't outspoken. You were kind of under the surface, but in a very intentional way, if that's fair to say. And so I think people kind of wanted to know more about who you were. I certainly did. So it made it easy for me to pick up the phone, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
I'm happy I was able to just share a little bit more about my background, and really enjoyed this series you've put on, and hopefully you can keep getting people who are going to come on and spend 45 minutes talking to you.
Hey, who would you recommend I talk to next?
Great question.
Great question. It's buying time. It's not a great question.
No, it's not.
Buying time.
The other person I was thinking about is your neighbor, Becky, right? Becky Castle.
I'm working on it.
I think. Okay.
Yeah.
Because is
Is
she at Stanford now? Last time I looked, she's teaching at Stanford, which is amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll see where it goes. Maybe this is the last one. I don't know.
This will not be the last one. You got how many were in our class? Like 300 something. So
I think it was like 380. If I'm not mistaken.
I thought it was like 340, 380. So got plenty of.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Well, anyway, man. Hey, buddy, I really appreciate it. Really cool to chat with me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks, Andy, and let's stay in touch.
All right, sir. Take care, Raj.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Bye.